How is a Shonen Jump series about volleyball so unbelievably good? I mean this with my full chest. Haikyu is peak. And not just in the sense of peak for a sports manga or anime. It transcends being a fun sports series. It will move you. You will be on the edge of your seat. You will cheer. You may even cry. You will feel how overwhelmingly good it is. What I'm here to do today is to convince you to read Haikyuu. If you haven't engaged with Haikyuu in any medium, this is for you. If you have watched Haikyuu but haven't read Haikyuu, this is for you. Or if you have read Haikyuu and just want to hear someone glaze it anyways, this is for you as well. Maybe you're trying to convince somebody to read it too. Then you can watch this, and if you agree with what I'm saying, perhaps you can send it to that friend you're trying to convince. But who am I to convince you to read something? Let me introduce myself. Hello, nice to meet you. I am Calcan, and they call me the Kagurabachi girl of YouTube. Which means at least I've got to know what I'm talking about with manga, because we don't even have an anime yet. And today I'm joined by a pal of mine as well, Alons. He's a fellow bocce tuber, and he's a big JJK guy as well. He has very recently been enlightened to the peak that is the Haikyuu manga, so I thought he would be a perfect pick to assist me. This whole video I would consider spoiler-free. We're going to hype it up and familiarize you a bit, but we're going to keep it vague enough. We have to get into a little detail, of course, because otherwise there's just nothing to say at all. Especially when we talk about the characters, if you find it to be pushing a little bit into, like, you don't want to know anything, then just skip past that section. Here's a brief rundown of Haikyuu if you aren't familiar with it at all. Our main character, Hinata, dreams of being a professional volleyball player, specifically a spiker despite being short in stature. He and his high school team, Karasuno, have a goal of making it to nationals and winning it all. I want to talk about some plot tropes as well, just so you kind of know what kind of thing you're getting in for. The biggest example of that in Haikyuu is the underdog trope. I already mentioned that Hinata has a disadvantage in the sport because he is short, but he also didn't have the resources to properly play the sport with an actual team until he was at the high school level. And Karasuno as a whole, the whole entire team, I would call underdogs. They start from the bottom as a school that used to be good at volleyball, but that reputation crashed and burned. Their school is pretty standard. It's rural and in the countryside compared to some of their private school competitors. They have to overcome a lot of different issues amongst their team as well. They're very much at a disadvantage. Some more tropes as well are prodigies, natural talent versus hard work, which it's more so a subversion of that, really, if we're being entirely honest. Rivalries are a part of it as well, and also technically it also fits the tournament arc trope, technically. So there's a bit of information just to give you a basic idea of what we're dealing with here. There are so many great characters in Haikyuu, I cannot emphasize that enough, and you'll definitely understand that when we're done with this section. This one's definitely the longest part of the video. We're only going to emphasize 3 key players, and then shout out some others in less detail just to give some appreciation. Of course, it makes sense to start with our main character, Shoyo Hinata, who I've already mentioned briefly. Hinata is a really hard worker, his energy is contagious, he is so passionate, and his sheer determination really shines. He has walls to overcome, quite literally, as he tries to accomplish his dream, like learning how to play on a team, finding his role on a team, and finding out that volleyball isn't exactly the romanticized version of it that he had in his head as a kid, but he still loves it anyways. Hinata has such a fulfilling journey from the start all the way to the way end, which of course I can't touch into, but just know that it is extremely, extremely satisfying. And I know that sounds like very basic protagonist, like he's determined, he has great energy, but just trust me, he cooks, just trust. Hinata is very, very special, I think so. Represent, yeah. And of course you can't talk about Hinata without talking about Tobio Kageyama, the king of the court. Kageyama has his own obstacles to overcome, quite the opposite of Hinata's, because Kageyama is a very experienced player. But his skill isolates him because of his mindset. Kageyama is a very fascinating character when you watch him unravel, which he definitely does. He definitely does do that. And not only is Kageyama the king of the court, but he is also the king of hype moments and aura. Like, he may be 15 years old and literally just playing volleyball, but man, he has aura. It's crazy, honestly. Kageyama has really good character development while also keeping his strong personality, and that really allows him to shine. Hinata and Kageyama are a package deal when it comes to talking about their characters. The two of them are a setter and spiker duo, by the way. They are literally called the Freak Twins. They have a duo name in canon. The story very, very much relies on how these two work as a pair through their ups and downs, which does work in the series' favor because this duo is incredible. They both complement each other so well. I really can't emphasize it enough. Like, there's so many things going for Haikyu, but I feel like at the end of the day, it really does ride on Hinata and Kageyama as a pair. So it's a great thing that that pair works really well. Like, it's really good narratively. They just enable each other to do the best that they can possibly do. It's so great. And now there's just one more character to talk about in detail.
Okay, let me kick off my section by saying that I know for sure Kalkan is more than capable of glazing this series to the ends of the earth, perfectly fine on her own. And yet, she's chosen to channel her inner Megami and summon me for one very specific task. A task that I'm probably better suited to discussing since I only just finished reading Haikyuu for the very first time the other week, and because my absolute favourite character in the whole series happens to be the third key player that Cal wanted to bring up in this video. The name of that character is Toru Oikawa. Now you see, Oikawa doesn't even play for Karasuno. In fact, he's their rival. Or, to be more specific, he's a rival of Tobio Kageyama, as they are both setters who graduated from the same middle school. And just as Cal said, Haikyuu does have an incredibly strong supporting cast of characters that can be found both inside and outside of the main Karasuno team. But to me, and to many others, Oikawa is someone who does just stand above the rest. That's because Toru Oikawa is you. He's probably the most naturally human character in the series. Despite being praised as one of the best setters and all-round players in the series, Oikawa lacks certain characteristics that most other high-level players do actually have. He believes, at the very least, he lacks natural talent. Oikawa is not a prodigy, and he's not particularly gifted, and he's not widely recognized. He has no plot armor, no sudden awakenings, no specific things that he's naturally inhumanly good at. Basically, all of the classic anime cliches that are often found within the rest of the Haikyuu characters, such as Shoyo Hinata or Tobio Kageyama, are completely missing from this person. To me, Toru Oikawa is the best possible depiction of a stock-standard human being. And for that reason, I think he's easily the most relatable character in the show, because chances are you aren't an anime-powered prodigy either, right? Now, I'm sure everybody watching this has something that they're very good at and really enjoy, whether it be sports, art, cooking, video games, solving a bloody Rubik's Cube. I don't know, I'm sure you have something, right? Everyone has something they enjoy and something they, strive to excel at. And with that feeling of enjoyment, there often comes an accompanying feeling of like competition and drive to become the best at that thing. So when you see other people doing exactly what you do, but way, way better than you do it, it can sometimes be very demotivating. Jealousy and resentment towards people who are better than you at something may not be very desirable emotions, but they are just a natural and innately human reaction. Feeling that way just isn't something we can really help. Now, whether your rival is actually naturally talented or not rarely matters. The point is, they are better than you, and that fact is frustrating. You wish you could have what they have. This is Toru Oikawa, a regular dude who loves the game of volleyball, but has always been surrounded by rival players who he perceives as being far beyond his reach due to them possessing a natural affinity for the sport that he simply doesn't think he has. He feels those natural feelings of jealousy and resentment, unlike Shoyo Hinata, who, despite being less experienced than pretty much everybody, only feels a positive rush of motivation whenever he sees someone better than him. That's what makes Toru Oikawa human, and it's why he's such an easy character for the average Joe to relate to. However, despite that fact, Oikawa is simply one of the most terrifying players anyone could hope to face. Why? Because he works hard. Simple as that. He loves volleyball and he loves being a setter, so he has dedicated himself to constantly training and improving. Let's take his serving, for example, okay? Oikawa has a horrifyingly powerful serve, because he sat down and decided serving is something he wanted to practice again and again and again until he became as, well, probably more proficient with it than, the people he would call prodigies. But this is the very important part, okay? Does that mean he is perfect in that field? No. And why is that? Because he's human. So naturally, he's gonna mess up. He's gonna make mistakes. Like, sure, his best serve is definitely something to marvel at, even among the best players in the country, but he's still gonna mess it up from time to time, because he's only human. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. I'm kind of just describing another typical, anime cliche of hard work versus natural talent. It's a common trope. But I don't think that's really the case for Oikawa. Something that other characters in this trope, like Shoyo Hinata, Rock Lee, or Might Guy have, that Tori Oikawa doesn't have, is an unnaturally positive attitude which allows them to see every defeat and failure as pure motivation to get better. Oikawa doesn't have that, because again, he's human, not some overly positive, motivation machine. No matter how many times he wins, and no matter how many times he trains, anytime Oikawa experiences some type of failure, he still displays those same old natural human emotions. He still gets jealous, he still feels resentment, and he still feels like some goals might just be out of his reach forever. Yet, just like those other characters within the trope, he's never truly discouraged, because he is very aware of the fact that if he stops trying now, he'll never actually find out if hard work can get him to the places he wants to be. And that kind of motivation can only be born of true passion. And in Oikawa's case, that true passion is for volleyball. It's fun, he finds it fun, and all of that training is worth those fun moments. And for that reason, he's just the best. As with most things, though, Oikawa is at his best when he's facing off against his rivals. It's the interactions and tension between players like Oikawa and Kageyama that gets you so damn hooked on every single game in the series, and it's also one of the reasons I think reading the manga is just far superior to watching the anime. The anime is definitely amazing, don't get me wrong, but it is fundamentally a different medium to manga, which means that many benefits that you gain through reading are lost when watching the anime. Oikawa and Kageyama's rivalry, as well as the rivalry of their respective teams, is probably the best example I can find of this because it's easily one of, if not the most gripping parts of the series. It's hard to explain without spoiling anything, I guess, but the tension and sudden rush of adrenaline you get from turning the page, to see someone making a certain play, or seeing the raw reactions of other players on the page, is just one of those things that kind of naturally gets lost in the anime. Sometimes multiple reactions, plays, or events will occur at the same time on screen, and sometimes the show just likes to move on before you've had a time to properly process and digest what's just happened. But when you read it, you make the conscious decision, knowing what you've just read, to turn the page, and then you can take as much time as you need to process and digest every individual panel. And because of this, reading the manga really highlights a lot of moments that are otherwise lost or just kind of made less significant in the anime, and it causes a completely different range of emotions to boil up when reading it as opposed to watching it. Again, both are great ways to consume Haikyu, don't get me wrong, I'm watching it right now, it's amazing. But as someone who has sat down and read the physical volumes and got the most out of this so-called page turn effect, I really don't have any choice but to encourage you to read the manga. It's truly incredible, especially the parts involving Oikawa. I think I've probably yapped for way too long already though, so I'm quickly gonna zoom through some other standout Haikyu characters that I really love before handing the video back over to Cal. Ryunosuke Tanaka, your typical buzzcut dumbass with an unbreakable mental state that, similar to Oikawa, is just kind of a normal dude. On the Karasuno main roster, he's probably the furthest from a prodigy and is often outshined by star players like Tobio Kageyama or Yu Nishinoya. But he doesn't care. He just likes hitting the ball really hard over the net, and that's that. Simple but effective. And because of how standard Tanaka seems when compared to his teammates, it makes the moments where he shines feel just that little bit more rewarding than if you see it for anybody else. Kageyama does something really cool and it's like, okay, but that's expected. You get to a point where you know that's coming. But when the normies do something really cool and they clutch up, that feels good. Kei Tsukishima. Honestly, that man deserves his own video. I just wanted to throw his name out there. If you know, you know. Also, Nishinoya, because for all of my talk about relating to the average Joe, a ridiculously cool and talented prodigy like Nishinoya is just, well, cool. And then finally, I wanted to highlight Karasuno's ace, Asahi Azumane, because he is a perfect middle ground between the players I've discussed so far. He is a decently well-known powerhouse of a spiker, but he still falls just short of being the best. And that's honestly why I love him. He's a really well-balanced mix of hard-working, normal dude and a natural talent to be feared by his opponents. I think the funniest part about him by far, though, is that despite his very scary power, he's just a complete pushover. But yet again, I want to emphasize that my attachment to all of these characters was massively strengthened by the fact I read the manga first and watched the anime second. You know, giving yourself the time to process every panel, showing every emotion and reaction on the characters' faces, instead of having it kind of just all thrown at you, does just make it easier to connect with everyone. So, yeah. Okay. I think I'm done. Cal, I'm sorry for holding your viewers hostage for so long, but I really needed to glaze Oikawa. Anyway, back to you.
There's so many other amazing characters, I cannot emphasize enough, there's so many other good ones, but for the sake of this video, I just want to touch on two more quickly, and those are my two favorite characters, Kenma and Hoshiyumi. Shout out to those two. And if somebody watching this has watched Haikyuu but hasn't read it and you're wondering why the fuck is Hoshiyumi your favorite character, you've got to read the manga, okay? You've got to read it. I mean, it's still a hot take even then, but like still, if you read the manga, you would understand why I like him so much. And actually, it's criminal if I don't mention Atsumu as well. I fucking love that guy. Shout out Omi Omi as well. I love you, Kiyomi. Fucking my sister's gonna kill me if I don't mention Bokuto. Shout out Bokuto. Okay. Cutting myself off now. Okay, actually, last one, I swear. Shout out Ushiwaka the goat, my fellow southpaw. Okay, we're done for real. And if you are wondering why we spent so long talking about the characters and really emphasizing it, it's because out of all of the series that I have watched or read, I genuinely believe that Haikyuu has the best sidecast. At least that's my opinion. So many characters are utilized to their fullest potential and just smartly utilized as well in the story. They all serve a purpose and they all have their moments that are really good, and they all represent something in this story. It is relevant to point out how distinct each character is, despite almost all of them being volleyball players. They all play with different mindsets and with different styles. I value representation, so in association, I also value relatability. If you read or even watch Haikyuu and you don't find a single character you see yourself in, I would seriously be shocked. The characters have to be good for a series like Haikyuu to be effective, because how can you be invested in a fictional 2D volleyball game if you don't like the characters? The group dynamics in Haikyuu are really fun as well, as you could imagine, because volleyball is a team sport. But even groups consisting of people from different teams are really fun too, which you do get that. You do get the other teams interacting with each other. And I love the moments like that. I think the series really shines, actually, in moments like that. Amazing sidecast, if you did not get that by now. The art in Haikyuu is another strong suit. It's really dynamic, and it kind of has to be for this type of thing to work. Lots of speed line stuff going on. You really feel the power in a spike, or a serve, or the power of a jump. Feet boosting off the floor. The power of a block. Something I love about the art in Haikyuu is that in very dire moments, the imagery will get very much not volleyball-like. It's all like symbolisms and metaphors. Like, for example, if a character feels cornered, they might be standing on the edge of a cliff, or in cages, or with knives to each other's throats. Some of my favorite paneling is in Haikyuu as well. You really get the sense of motion going on. My very favorite example I don't want to show because it is spoilery, but when I think of paneling in literally anything, the first thing I think of is the last few pages of chapter 367 of Haikyu. It is so effective for the intensity of the moment it's portraying. It absolutely took my breath away the first time I was reading it. I had to put my phone down and recover. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And that example specifically is also just so good because of the story going on, which is a great way to segue into talking about the story itself, because the art very much accompanies the story. They very much go hand in hand. We went on about the characters long enough, but of course they are a big part of why this story works as well as it does. Like I said, you've got to care about the characters playing in these games because the games wouldn't really be all that exciting otherwise. And you like the characters because of the brilliant storytelling. It's volleyball games, so it's so simple in concept, yet it's one of my favorite series of all time. It's in my top 3. And it will probably never leave my top 3. It means so much to me. It's so good. Which, of course, I really can't go more into it than that because spoilers. So really all I can say is just really, really emphasize how good it is. Like, that's really all I can do here. With series, usually, especially like manga and anime, people ask, when does it get good? So I want to answer that question. Where does Haikyu get good? I personally think Haikyu just starts off really strong, to be honest. I don't really think there's a specific part early on where it gets good. I think it genuinely just starts really good, and then it just keeps getting better. Because there's some really good stuff going on even in those earlier chapters. But if I were to shout out a specific portion where it gets really, really, really good, better than it already is, then I would say it's the game that starts on chapter 49. Haikyu has such a satisfying ending. The last 60 or so chapter run is genuinely incredible stuff. It also happens to be the portion of Haikyu that still isn't animated yet. We have an OVA and a movie confirmed, but there will still be 30 chapters unaccounted for that haven't gotten an announcement that they'll be animated. A good reason to perhaps read it? Because those last 60 chapters are like the best part of the series, and it's not animated yet, and we don't even know if it'll all get animated, and some of it might get cut out, which, let me explain that now. The anime does cut some things. It's particularly a problem in the latest addition to the series, which is the Dumpster Battle movie. It had a theatrical release, which it's actually a really, really incredible movie. It's so fucking good, but some of the cool moments and deeper context do get removed because of the shorter runtime that movie has compared to the seasons. The anime can get a bit tricky because it is released so clunky as well. I had a friend who watched Haikyu and then accidentally skipped an OVA, and he was very confused at one point. Alon's already touched on it earlier, but reading allows you to absorb the panels for as long or as little as necessary, whereas an anime paces the game for you. I think Haikyu works great in its original manga format because you can get swept up in the pace of the game at your own pace. I think it works surprisingly well for a sports-centered story. Something I love about manga in general is just how the medium can use scale. Smaller panels for more casual moments, and then full pages or even double spreads to really emphasize important moments. In an anime, everything is the same size, so you have to rely on editing, pacing, music to make these moments feel as important as they should. Fortunately, the music in Haikyu is fantastic, but still, it takes more to make these moments feel bigger, whereas the manga can just do it. To get the full Haikyu experience, the manga is the way to go, especially with that currently unanimated portion, because I cannot emphasize it enough. It is seriously so good. And when that stuff does get eventually animated, some of it probably will get cut, and it'll probably ruin my life, but that's okay. You can read all of Haikyu on the Shonen Jump app or a website. It's only $3 a month to have access to every single chapter digitally. That's how I read it. It's on Manga Plus as well, digitally. All of the physical volumes of Haikyu are out as well. The manga has been finished for a little bit now. There are 3-in-1 omnibuses, which is definitely helpful. There's currently 9 of those as of recording this video. So that ends on volume 27, and there's 45 volumes total, so the rest of them you would have to get individually or maybe pick up digitally from there if that's what you would want to do. You can order Haikyu on Amazon or something, or any bookstore that has a manga section will probably have some Haikyu. It's pretty popular. Or if reading is really not your thing, but you are still intrigued, you can find Haikyu on Crunchyroll. If you're not going to read it, then watching it is better than nothing at all. So there's that for you. I recommend the English dub because it's really funny. And even though I prefer the manga, the anime is still great too. Also, you can always watch the anime after reading it. That's what I did and recommend doing. And this is a must. This is an absolute necessary. After you finish reading it, at the very, very least, you need to go watch the Dumpster Battle movie. It is so insanely good. And I know I said they cut things, but the movie is still incredible. I've watched it a ridiculous amount of times, and I'll probably watch it again soon. And I'm sure the same will apply to the next movie as well that isn't out yet, but I know it'll be peak. I trust it'll be peak because the source material is. We're done! Woo! I hope you are convinced. I hope we were able to put you on peak. But hey, Go in with an open mind as well. Don't think, oh, this is going to be the best thing ever of all time because Calcan said so. This was insane glaze, and even though you absolutely do mean it, keep your head clear, alright? Now charge forth! Happy reading! I definitely plan on making more Haikyu videos in the future because I love it so much, and I'm actually really surprised it took me this long to make a Haikyu video, to be honest. Of course, with the movie coming out sometime next year, I'll definitely have videos out about that as well. I'll probably have multiple videos dedicated to it, but I'll make other ones too. I've got a lot of video ideas floating around in this noggin. So perhaps consider subscribing so you don't miss those. Big subscribe, like this video as well, comment down below. I love reading what you have to say. Wow, vocals. Channel members as well. You get a shout out at the end of every single video, and I make members only shorts sometimes. It's nothing too crazy, but it's a good way to support the channel. Woo! I know Alon's has a Haikyu video planned at some point eventually, so subscribe to him as well. He does a ton of stuff. He's super cool. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye!